Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum and hello everyone. I am Syed Imran Haider. I am working in National CERT as a manager trainings and capacity building division. So welcome you all in National CERT's CyberWatch webinar series. Today we have second session and this is a second webinar session. Our inaugural webinar session took place on 25th of April 2024. If anyone missed out or interested to watch again, may check it out on our YouTube channel. So Babar, you may share the link on the chat box. So today we will be having a very informative and exciting session because we have invited Dr. Fatima Hussain. Dr. Fatima doesn't need any kind of an introduction, but I would like to share a brief profile of Dr. Fatima with all the participants. So Dr. Fatima Hussain is a senior member of IEEE with a diverse technical and professional background. She has a Ph.D. in electrical and computer engineering, specializing in secure wireless communications. And she is the author of dozens of transaction papers, books, and industrial patents. She is editor of IEEE Newsletter Toronto Section from last 7 years and associate editor of many prestigious IEEE journals. She is a certified information system security professional and serves as an adjunct professor and research supervisor at Toronto Metropolitan University. Fatma has a proven record of driving research initiatives, designing and developing proof of concept pilots to solve business problems, and developing end-to-end solutions by leveraging cutting-edge technology. Her areas of current research include machine learning and network security, user behavior analysis, SaaS security and governance, resource allocation, explainable and ethical artificial intelligence, and has delivered several invited talks on these topics. Currently, she holds the position of Principal SaaS Security Architect at the Royal Bank of Canada in Toronto. She is responsible for SaaS governance and security architecture, partnering closely with stakeholders in enterprise architecture, cybersecurity, cloud, risk, and internal and external delivery teams to enable effective SaaS governance and architecture, best practices, and sound design principle across the entire SaaS lifestyle. Prior to this role, Fatma managed the user behavior analytics, an insider threat team in global cybersecurity GCS in RBC, Toronto, Canada. She led the development and automation of AI models for applications to detect and remedy data loss from insider threats. She has vast practical experience in using AI, ML, NLP, LLMs to bring visualization, data correlation services to the insider threat and investigation team. So, Dr. Fatma, assalamu alaikum. कैसी हैं आप? Welcome to CyberWatch webinar series.
Walaikum
And
salam, Imran.
welcome to NCERT family for a national cause.
Thank you so much. You can hear me, right?
Yeah, perfectly.
Assalamu alaikum to everyone, and thank you so much, Imran, for such a such an impressive introduction, which I didn't know that I have, but it's so nice of you to introduce me. Thank you so much. So before we start, I just want to add a few things here. I mean, I really, the initiative Pakistan, that PKCERT, and also the cybersecurity cell that is being formed, I really admire that initiative, and I wish and be part of it in any ways which I can. And I think that's one of the way I can participate. And thank you so much for inviting me here and sharing my knowledge and expertise with you guys. Okay, I can.
You have accepted our request. It's a pleasure indeed.
Yeah. No, thank you so much. It's everything. Yeah, it's anything which I can do for Pakistan or for my country or my mere log, or so I'm there to do that. Okay, so So today I will talk about the user behavior analytics and insider threat, and as a journal, and with certain use cases and examples, I will include the financial organization as I'm part of, to discuss what type of different threats we see across the organization and how we can remedify those. For sure, for the NDAs and the privacy's perspective, I cannot disclose any of the internal project description and all. So I'll be on the journal side, but for sure you guys can reach out to me later for asking any questions or any explanation you need or any guidance in any of the project. So before I start, I want to just give a brief background, which Imran has already did from my professional journey. I just want to talk about my and acknowledge my city and my school and my university, that they coached me in such a way that I was able to reach the position right now where I am. I belong to Bahawalpur, which is known as the land of Nawabs, and I did my schooling from Dominican Convent School, Bahawalpur, and afterwards did my BSc and MSc in Electrical and Computer Engineering from University of Engineering and Technology, Lahore. So before moving to Canada, I was part of University of Central Punjab and also Behaviour University, Islamabad campus, so taught there for many years. When I moved to Canada, I did my Master's of Sciences and Ph.D. in Electrical and Computer Engineering, specialization in wireless communications and security. And afterwards, I started my career in University of Guelph as an assistant professor. But that, I mean, staying there for 2 years, I didn't feel that much satisfied, professionally satisfied, which I thought I would be. That's why I left university and joined Royal Bank of Canada in their security team. So since then, I'm with RBC. Also part of a couple of research groups across different universities in GTA, Greater Toronto area. So this is my brief background. So since I work in cyber and the security, so I just want to give one awareness slide here. So I'll give you like 30 seconds to just read. It is about that the email warning about the viruses had the virus itself in it. So be very careful when you're clicking on any of the links or any opening up any of the attachments. And we have seen many frauds and impersonations and vulnerabilities when people click on the unknown emails or click on the download for any of the unknown attachments and going to any of the links. So it was just an awareness slide, which I put it over here. So what we will be talking about and discussing, and I will be presenting, it's the insider threat, what exactly it is, its dynamics, what are the indicators of compromise, which can tell us about something is going on, something fishy is going on, and it might result to an incident. I will also talk about the behavior profiling. What are the anomalies, and what is the context? Why context is important, and present a contextual security and cyber threat framework, that how we can combine the context with the anomalies, and then we are able to identify any of the malicious actors. Proactive security and threat detection. So we'll talk about a few of the use cases and also a couple of techniques with which we can secure any organization from the insiders or insider threat. Gen AI I included in here because it's really a talk of the town nowadays, and people think that it's a silver bullet and it will solve every single problem. We also use the Gen AI for the incident detection and classifications and all. But at the same time, there are repercussions associated with it. So I will talk about that. Behavior profiling, user privacy, and GDPR compliance. That's another topic I will just touch upon. So just to give you an idea that why the compliance and the regulation is also important, and industry has to be careful about that too. And then a little bit about the enterprise tools and frameworks that can help as a guidance to the students or any professional who wants to pursue his career in cybersecurity. So, okay, let's see what are the facts and figures. And by the way, these figures are back for 2022, so still like it had been like a year and a half on the top. So the percentage of the insider crimes or insider threat has increased drastically. So insider attacks count for 80% of all the computer internet related crimes, and 70% of the attacks cause more than $20,000 of damage, which happened due to the malicious insiders. And still, this is just the financial damage we're talking about here. There is the important damage is the name of any of the organization, or organization is defamed due to that they are not able to protect their assets. And the majority of the insiders are the privileged users, and majority of the attacks are launched from the remote machines, not sitting inside any organization, but sitting outside. And since they have the accesses, they can do anything they want. And 38.8% of the incidents are unintentional breaches due to lack of training, not knowing what to do. We will talk in detail about these different types. And followed by 33.62% of the incidents which are intended by insiders, they wanted to do it. And only 5.25% are with the malicious intent. So there are different types of the insider threats, and all those insider threats are dealt differently and remediated differently. Okay, let's step back and see that why we see so many of the insider threat, or as a whole, so many of the cyber threats. So today we sit in a global cyber physical world, and we proudly say, quote unquote, that we are connected 24/7 with each other across the globe through many different devices. We see, again, from last 5-6 years, an Internet of Things and connection. Even a small single device your home could be connected to the system. I mean, sitting here, I can control my home appliances and security back in Pakistan, or I can sitting from there, I can control it here. So we are connected. Plus, we have so much of the social media, access and privilege and abuse, I would say, that's going on. So when we are connected 24/7 with so many different devices, imagine that endpoint security, how much it will be important. Not only the endpoint security, but the network security, communication security, and so forth. So, and also for the reason that COVID pandemic, everybody went virtual. So it again opened up so many different types of the threats and the risks to the organization, which we have seen, and we never saw that before, which we saw in last 2 years. And we are trying to find still, I mean, we have remedied many of those, but still trying to find the solutions for those new novel threats. So due to this, we also, due to that global connected world, and at the same time, we claim that we are doing so many of the innovations that are going on. Connected world, it's complex. We have the everything in cloud. We are going from the in-house softwares to the SaaS applications and so on. And for sure, the service providers, no matter at what level they are trying to satisfy and get hold of the consumers or the clients. And so they are bringing in new products, no matter it's just they are not needed, but they are wanted. But at the same time, we are getting more and more innovations, but at the same time, we are getting more vulnerable to the attacks and different crimes. Let's step back and see that what is security and privacy. Maybe that's the simple definitions all of you know, and don't think that I'm trying to teach the Security 101 course, but this is really important to know what is privacy and what is security in order to understand, first of all, the threat landscape and what types of the action is or they're considered as to be the data breach or the privacy breach or the security breach. So what is a data security? I mean, probably everybody knows that we don't want to have a third party access, unauthorized access to our data. So we want to secure that. And privacy is actually compliance with the data protection laws and regulations, that how we can collect, we can process, we can share, archive, or delete data. So few of the countries, they are not very specific. I'm not going to talk about pinpoint specific countries or specific areas, just as a general discussion. The few of the regions, they are not very particular about the data privacy, even the privacy of the people or the human privacy. So data leakage and sharing is so without any responsibility, it is being done. And so the attackers exploit that basic human behaviors to get hold of the data and get hold of any network or any of the asset. And so the data breaches, they're becoming more acute than ever. So we really need to have the awareness programs to be there to train the people, and even before training, what happens, information sharing is really important to tell people what exactly it means, what are your rights about your privacy rights for the data and your assets, what you have. And so the privacy and the security, they play hand in hand. And no matter what state data it is in, it should be protected. And privacy should be considered as per design. So I just included this slide to just break the ice and from the boring discussion. You can see what is the meaning of you can see the difference of the privacy and security. Security is the unauthorized access to you, and the privacy is you, privacy about your profile, privacy about your whereabouts, privacy about your data, privacy about your devices, and so on. So most of the time, the definitions for the security and privacy, they're taken differently, and for sure, they are different in academia or industry. In academia, mostly it is we talk about the authentication, so you get into any of the system, log into your system, confidentiality, integrity, privacy, availability, so the network should be available for you, and then list goes on and on. But for industry, it's little different. They have to secure themselves. They have to secure their clients. They have to secure their employees. They have to secure their systems. They have to secure their assets, their processes, their technology, everything. And they have to secure from different attacks and risks. Again, the risk to impersonation, risk of data leakage, risk of defame, and so on. And so in a bigger picture, security little bit falls differently or fell differently or taken differently as it is done or read or observed in academia. And above all, industry has to follow the standards and the regulations. And one of it, for example, NIST, we follow NIST cybersecurity framework. That's National Institute of Security standards. And so security at different levels, for example, identify your important assets. Governance has to be done, risk assessment, whatever asset is important or more important, so the governance process will be strict, security controls should be strict, and it should be protected. Data security and awareness and trainings is done. Detect is to detect any of the anomalous event that is happening, or if there is security controls are continuously monitored to figure out that if some control is weaker or more reinforcement is required, and so on. And the moment any of the event happen or any incident happen or going to be an incident happen, then there's a response process to be there. Response planning, communications, how you can mitigate. So incident response is really important. First is detection and then responding. And then important step is remediation or recover. Means from the, if some breach has happened or some, imagine if any of the communication link is down, and then you want to move those users which are on that communication link to the new one, you need to work in both ways. First of all, you have to give us the backup communication link for the users, and at the same time you have to improve or get back that previous faulted communication link to the operation. So this is a simple basic, I would say, the life cycle for any incident response, security, and the privacy of any of the software system or any of the hardware systems and so on. So basically, industry is more focused on the CII, confidentiality, integrity, and availability. Privacy, we didn't touch upon the cost and usability up till now. These are very important factors. So in industry, everything works on what you get back. If you don't have any profit, you're not making money, or you're not saving money, then you're not going towards that option of security and privacy. So that means assets which are more important, or they are, for example, the crown jewels or the very restricted data internal processes, they are more important. At the same time, for us, the client's data is really important. PII data is really important, because anybody can come and sue us if the PII data is being leaked, or for example, the fraud has happened with the NFC credit card. So assets, depending upon the important and the vulnerabilities, they are protected. So, and we try to build those assets, or we try to build those security controls or privacy controls that are usable and they're cost effective, so that save us money and at the same time make us money. And for all of these, the application context is really important. So we're talking about which application or which system or which asset we need to do. And context will be very important as we proceed through the slides. And there's one more term which is very much people talking about, the confidential computing. So confidential computing is nothing more than that if the data is in use, it should be controlled or protected or secure. We are familiar with the data at rest, that we back up the files and we store the file, database is encrypted and so on. And we also focus on the data in motion. For example, communication links, we are sending out the encrypted emails and syncing the files, and we're keeping the versions and all that. But data in use is also important, especially with the data in use, data in motion, data in processing. For example, you have seen the way the world is moving towards the OpenAI concept and that GPT-4 thing going on. So most of the data which we push to the model, since it just leaves your premises or your device, it is being stored at some local, not local or the virtual or some third party, the cloud or the servers and so on. And you don't know what they will do with that. Same is true with when you sign up for some of the application, or some sign up for some event or something else, that they take information from you, your email address or your phone number and all that, and then they use it, they sell it out for different purposes. Maybe marketing people will reach out and so on. So we should be very careful. I mean, the stakeholders, we are the biggest stakeholders, I would say, that our data is being used and abused somewhere else. Anyways, coming back to the topic, so confidential computing is really, really important. Okay, so now we have built a little background on that we are global connected world. There are different types of the threats. We are more vulnerable due to the innovations and connectivity and devices and all that. And now we also know what is the meaning of the privacy, data privacy and data security, and we should be secure. Now let's get to the topic of the insider threat and how insiders can be the biggest or the biggest danger, biggest threat to the organization. So who is an insider? Any person with the authorized access to an organization or the resources, facilities, buildings, information, equipment, data, network systems is an insider. So it can be the employees, it can be the workers, it can be contractors, so on. We will talk about that, what type of insiders we see in industry. And insider threat is a risk posed by the insiders using their access. Either it's malicious, well, malicious intent, it's intentional, unintentional, we'll see. So anyways, that they act in a way that that can negatively affect the organization they have or they can. But not everybody is same. I mean, they could be just the person they didn't know, and they didn't have enough training. They didn't know what to do, what not to do. So some data breach happened, and we see a lot of such incidents on our side. People doesn't know how to. Again, the most the common one is just clicking on the links and downloading. So we need to block all of those sites and all of those, the external downloads and uploads and all that. And there are people who just want to do it for the curiosity. Okay, let's see, I'm able to get in or breach or not. And then there are very less people who really want to do bad things. And they intentionally do it, and they want to do it, and they want to put damage to the organization. So insiders could be the employees. It could be the former employees, contractor, consultant, visitors, the people who are actually working, doing the services, cleaning services, the plumbers. Could be anybody who is getting into the organization, or especially to the places where we keep the servers, and the entire building is in a different way that you cannot enter or access and all that. And why there is an insider threat anyways, why people want to do bad things? It could be the financial greed. Again, maybe the competitor asks the person, just go get me the internal process or some document with which they can actually defame or degrade or take advantage from the organization. It could be the anger. Maybe somebody was so angry, and it was maybe the promotion was not given to him, or he had been insulted, or for any reason he's angry and he wants to do that. People do it for excitement. Divided loyalties, they on purpose enter the organization to serve as a black sheep, and leak the documents or resources. It could be the lack of awareness. It could be the human error. We see lots of incidents from the human error and lack of awareness. And few we see from the divided loyalties. And then also financial greed is one of the basic one we see across. No matter what type of the insider threat it is, it's non-malicious or malicious, it is affecting the organization. For instance, like for non-malicious, what happened? There's a data loss, so data leakage happened. And how did they do it? They had the legitimate access, but they violated the policy. And the reason was they don't know insufficient training. They don't know about the policies. They haven't done the due diligence courses and all, so they don't know. Malicious intent, what they have done is theft of IP, they do fraud. They had the legitimate access. They did the violation of policy, and sometimes they do the unauthorized access as well. They try to find the loopholes in the system to get into. And why did they do it? Because of financial, political, personal motivation behind that. But in a nutshell, it will affect the organization no matter it's non-malicious or malicious. Though remediation process for the malicious act is really, it's difficult to do. Because then the person who is doing it on purpose, he will try to close all the, he will try to erase his footsteps, so nobody will be able to catch him or bring him the proof against him. So it's difficult to remediate the malicious insider acts. So what are the cyber-related risks it will pose to any of the organization? First of all, it's really bad that they got the unauthorized access to the corporate information. It's the data leakage. It's the assets being stolen. Fraud is being done. Imagine if somebody steals the client data and commit the fraud using that client's credit card. It will be so much bad for the bank. Similarly, if they have they have steal the PI data, and that PI data is used for the maybe used to disguise somebody's identity, then it's really bad. So unintentional exposure of the private, sensitive, or protected data may happen. Viruses, bombs, or other malicious codes, denial of service attacks might happen. Theft or loss of intellectual property, deprivation of access or the asset use, data corruption, deletion, modification, theft of corporate data, on and on. Since I was part of the data protection and leakage team, so my focus is more into the, the data stealing or the leakage and all that. But for sure, that insider threat can happen to any of the layers of the protocol stack. Okay, so now let's see how we can detect these threats, and we can do the predictive analytics. So they are out there. First of all, it is a very difficult process. I'm not saying it's impossible. But it's very difficult to identify. First of all, to identify or detect any of the bad actors. And there are different ways to do it. We'll talk about it in a bit. But how we can do, either we go from the route of the defensive security, or we can do the proactive security. We'll talk about it in a bit. But it's difficult to detect. So one thing we can do, that we can detect the anomalies in the network and the human patterns. And we can detect something unusual is happening in the network traffic or user activities, whatever the normal was, now the user is behaving a little bit abnormal. Now the thing is, we can do it by the patterns and their signature. Again, I don't want to go deep into the security policies, that they're the signatured detections, and they are the non-signatured ones, and identified patterns and all. But in a nutshell, it's like you want to identify if something abnormal has happened. So that could be a starting point to detect any threat. We might end up having a false positive, but that's the first thing to start with. So we should be able to identify an intrusion without having a prior signature. It means prior history we don't have, so it's something new. Just on a side note, these insider threats are like the black swan events. So in cybersecurity, black swan events are those which happen once or max twice in the entire life cycle. So they happen once. So we have, even here, we have seen so many events, incidents that happen once and then they have never happened again. So it's very difficult to predict those black swan events because there is no previous history. There is no previous example that on that basis we either will train a machine learning algorithm or we know as a human that this might happen. So it's always like a probability of estimation that we want to identify somebody. So we should capture the behavior analytics by HR, peer-to-peer relationship, social media. So we gather all that information about a person so that we can detect, identify, or predict the behavior of a person. So in AI ML language, we see a gut feeling or the predictability that what might be an attack, who might be an attacker. So these are those two questions. And same way as no matter how much advanced we have this AI and ML and all that gut feeling, I mean, we have captured so many incidents here that the machines didn't put that person into spot. They didn't identify it as a malicious insider. But the people who were doing the investigation, they had the gut feeling that something bad is going on. So again, that discussion is going on the different side that man-made machines are not that intelligent as the God-made machines, but that's a different discussion. Let's not go into it. Coming back to the point, we want to identify what might be an attack and who might be an attacker. So for this slide, this is basically I'm explaining here not only the different ways to detect, but also it can act as a potential use cases of somebody wants to do the research on it or actual identify the insiders, malicious insiders in an industry. So they can take any direction they want from here. For example, so as I mentioned earlier, that people, in order to find out what somebody wants to do and what is the intention, it's a very difficult question to solve because the human factors involved here. And so how we can incorporate that human factor, what the person is thinking about, and his activity. We can capture in the logs or we can give it to the machine learning algorithm or AI his activity. His activity means what is he's sending out, he's printing, he's going to different sites, he's downloading, he's uploading, he is accessing sites, he's printing, he is whatever that could be captured in any of the machine or with the electronic communication or transactions. But on the other side, the human aspects are there. So when we do the insider threat detection, we merge those two. Anyways, back to the MLAI. So we can, first of all, how we can start the process is very difficult to start anything. So we can start with the anomaly detection. Anomaly detection, any anomalous event that is happening, any anomalous behavior of the person that is happening. And we were using and it's isolation forest is the best technique to do that. And for example, the anomaly detection for the number of time the prints has been done, number of time the attachment, the frequency of the emails being sent out. Even, I mean, we have seen incidents in which people were sending out the confidential data, but since there is a restriction on the the size of the attachment and size of the email being sent out, they were chopping it off into small chunks and then sending it out. So they passed the threshold of the maximum size, but since the frequency was abnormal or unusual, they were caught. So any type of the anomaly detection, anomalous behavior you can think of. For example, you are looking at the behavior of a person who is downloading different things, or he is going to different sites which he shouldn't be going. So isolation forest can be used to find the anomaly detection. For sure, with that anomaly detection, we have to build a context around that. We'll talk in the contextual security in the next slides. We need to have a context to actually identify that this anomaly was bad. Not necessarily every anomaly is bad. So in order to prove that anomaly is bad, we need to have a context around that. Reinforcement learning, RL, is used, Q-learning or the deep learning. This is used for to analyze the historical patterns of a person. We capture different, we capture whatever data we have for the employees from a certain, and for each time window, we define that this person is capable, based on the previous behavior, the person is capable of committing this thing. He is going to print in next 2 weeks. He is going to go to that specific site within a week's time. So reinforcement learning is used for the current patterns and used based on the previous historical patterns, can be used to identify the insiders, malicious insiders. And so reinforcement learning can be used for the proactive security. And that didn't happen yet. No incident happened yet. But we can predict that that person is going to do this. So we can proactively strengthen the security controls, or start watching the person and so on. NLP, natural language processing, is used for the text analysis. Means any of the emails that was being sent out, or the attachments which being along with that email is sent out, those are analyzed and figured out that this is something confidential is being sent out or not. So text analysis, semantic analysis is being done in industry to just scan all the emails, documents, attachments which are going out of the organization. So recently, with the advent of that OpenAI and GPT-4 and all that, these we have started using that for different purposes. I have dedicated some slides at the end for this GPT-4, just to give you for the knowledge purposes and how we can use it for the threat detection. So these are used for the incident analysis, classification, and prediction. But at the same time, it has certain challenges associated with it in terms of the privacy and, the operational challenges and all. Statistical techniques, Markov models is an excellent way of predicting the next state of an employee or the human behavior. It's just like if you have been working with someone for so long, or the habits of a person, that how he behaves, so you can predict what he will do in certain situation. Same way in the Markov models, we feed in the actions of an employees, and then we do the next state prediction on the top of it. So all of these methods being used in industry across the, I will talk about the North America only. They are using this one way or the other. But this is similar. Again, I told you that it's very difficult to find out who is a bad actor. So it's just a needle in the haystack. So we come across the false positives and false negatives, both. false positives is this, that actually the person was not bad, but the model predicted it to be that bad. So here we have just the time and resource wasted. That's it. But for the false negative, it's threat to the organization. What is a false negative? The person was not good, but the machine didn't predict him, as to be the bad person. So that's a false negative. And the irony is this, that false negatives, we don't know even that we cannot quantify how many false negatives are there. We cannot tell that our machine learning algorithm, our system, our tool didn't identify the bad actors because they are undetected. We don't know about that. So important thing is to quantify what is the normal behavior and what is the level it should go beyond the normal behavior so that we can say that's a bad person. So that means always the context is important. We have to see in which context he has done that. So in a nutshell, we don't have a definite list that what person can do as a bad. So they could be concerning behaviors, but it depends upon the situation and we need to know the situation. And the person in question, what is normal for that person and why? And is this an abnormal behavior? For example, let's put an example of a financial advisor. Financial advisor or the consultants, and they deal with the clients and they advise them, they give them the financial advices, work with the mortgages and all. So for them, printing a lot of documents is a usual job responsibilities. But somebody who is working in, say, a developer, Python developer, and he's building he's working, or maybe the full stack developer, he doesn't need to print. He is just working on maybe working on Postman or working on any Jupyter notebook, and maximum he will go to the GitHub. So if he started printing a lot, that means this is abnormal. But when we investigate the person, figure out that it was his own, because it was a tax season, so he was printing his T4s and all. So you see in this example that the context is important. I mean, his job profile doesn't coincide with this thing that he has to print, but since it's the tax season, he was doing that. So in that context, it is abnormal, but not malicious. So there are, like, I would say, unlimited examples like that. And it is very difficult to quantify that abnormal behavior is bad or it's just abnormal. So we need to find out who is the person we're looking at, what is the frequency of his behaviors, abnormal behaviors, and what is a normal for that person. So that's really important. Okay, so how we can summarize this definition, or how we define what is a user behavior analysis and threat detection, why they're related. So user behavior analysis, by analyzing the behavior of a person or an employee, we can find out the baseline behavior for that person and what are the usual activity patterns for it. And if there's an anomalous activity going on, which is beyond the normal, then it's a sign of a potential incident. But at the same time, we need to build a context around that to actually authenticate that, yes, this is a bad behavior. So UBA can help us predict that something is going to happen bad or not, and also help to mitigate the potential data leakage, which proactively we can control. Means it's not happened yet, but we have strengthened the security control around that person to do that. And at the same time, identify that where our controls are weak. So we can control that, we can strengthen that, reinforcement could be done, and also at the same time, where the training is needed for the people. So you can see that, and there are many more benefits around that. I have just listed few here. So now you can see that why this user behavior is important. Information and context. So I have said so many times, context is important, anomalous, and then context is important and all that. So in which way the context is important? We have to analyze that. So, and we don't know what type of the incident is going to happen. So we tend to track and log every single thing. And just to be clear on this side, that this privacy of the employees are maintained. So these are all of the data, which is, first of all, very few people have an access to the employees' data. That's one thing. Secondly, these are labeled, it's labeled with certain IDs, which are other than we mask the IDs of the actual names and the IDs of the people and then work on that. So I'm just adding it here that privacy is maintained. It's not that we are sitting in the system and looking at everything with the name the person is doing. No. So anyways, coming back to the point. So we look at the email logs, we store that, the browser history of a person, what type of the applications within the organization he has accessed and opened, and something outside which he has accessed which was not blocked. So he has accessed certain applications. For example, the people who are going a lot to the LinkedIn or going to the competitor organization sites, job sites. So we know that, okay, they're planning to leave. So we try to add a score, leaving score for them that they might leave. So I'm just giving an example. There are so many other scores we associate. We look at their print logs, what they have printed. They have printed from their home. They have printed their in premises. What are the roles and job responsibilities? What type of the accesses they have? Physical access. Do they have the company phone? Do they have the company printer? Do they have a company laptop? What they're doing with that? And also psychological behaviors. So on the right side, you can see I've just added few of these characteristics. For example, I have broken down into different types. For example, user profile characteristics is the profile of a user. What is the working hours, first and last seen, login records, device use records, and all. And user context characteristics means what are the application types, access, privilege, accesses, and all. And on the top, you see the event details. Event is that something that happens unusual, we call it an event. Once it is proven that that's an incident, we take it as an incident. So we want to know about the event as well. What happened, which policies were broken, which alerts were triggered, and so on. Okay. So this is a contextual security insider threat framework. This is just a reference. If any of it can want to use it, they can. It's not exactly the way we work, but that's the general concept that how you can, anyone can pick up on that. So we can have a user behavior profile engine, UBE, and we can put everything into that for everything we know about a person, and we call it an entity score. And in the middle box, you see here, this is information hub and anomaly detection engine. So we keep the entity score of person. Everybody has a score. In organization, every person has a score depending upon the type of the access, the type of the work, the type of the what HR tells about it. And then any event that happened, anomalous event, we pick up on that and then combine with the entity score of that person and then see that does that score actually reach to a level that should be considered as to be malicious or not. And if it reaches to that threshold, then actually the investigation happens. If after investigation we see that's a non-anomalous event, that's fine. We go back and change our machine learning algorithm or the engine or the tool or whatever we are working with. And if it is risky, something is happening, it will go to the anomaly response engine. And the remediation process will start. And at the same time, we refine our policies. We include the policy refinement, strengthening the security controls and all that. So here, the important thing is context. At what context the person did that? What happened? So we can give a number or a profile or a risk score to a person and then correlate with any of the event happening. And from there, we can do the judgment on this is bad or good. And afterwards, remediation process starts, or the policy refinements, or the strengthening of the model, or retraining of the model goes on. So Imran, I have enough time because I will take 10 more minutes.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So here I'm showing you a simple one of the use case. For example, if you want to track what type of the screenshot is being taken. So so imagine that if somebody cannot send out the attachments out and, cannot take the picture or anything, then one of the way could be take a screenshot and take it out. Or maybe one of the use case you can think of that somebody is taking screenshots of the important documents and then sending it out. So what we can do that we can actually draw it's a graph strategy that we think about that if a screenshot is taken, what different things could be done with that. It could be sent out through an email. It could be uploaded to an application, to the file sharing services. It could be printed, could be stored in the removable storages. Then further down on the nodes we go. If it is sent through an email, what type of the email could be? It is sent to external. It is sent to internal. If internal, then to whom it's sent to. Now the other person to whom internally he sent the email will be also tracked. If it is sent to external, was the personal email he's sending out or it's a competitor email sending out? If it's personal email, okay, then we have to think what's happening. Maybe it's some personal information he's sending out. But if he's sending to competitor, okay, now let's watch the person to see what else he does. So same way, all of these nodes, you can see it's going down. So we track, basically it's a data lineage or entire end-to-end. The data originated at some point, maybe it's a screenshot or maybe it's an email, anything. So it's that we are trying to possibly find out from where it originated and till which end it went. And in that, every node, when it is hopped on, every node is scanned. So in this way, you can imagine that the people or the organization who are dealing with the insider threat, lots of work to actually get that all the information collected and then all the information maintained and the logs being analyzed and then finding the end-to-end flow of that information. Either it's a screenshot, it's an attachment being sent out, it's being uploaded. Even the attachment which is sent out, what is it? It is PDF, document, XLS. XLS and CSVs is more crucial for us than the PDFs, because XLS can have the client data or some financial data in it. So this kind of the graph analysis is done to find out detect the origin and where it is going. So possibly help in the investigation for the investigation teams. Okay. So that was like pretty much all for the insider threat, but I will just touch upon that how Gen AI can be used for the insider threat, but is it maybe at some later time, we have a separate talk about the Gen AI because then it includes so many different things, the vector databases and different models and how we can use, what are the repercussions, what are the benefits and all. But for now, for the sake of time and the sake of the context, what the talk is about, I will just give you a brief overview of what is a Gen AI and can it help us in the insider threat detection or not? If it can help us, in which way? So what is a Gen AI itself, or the OpenAI and Chat GPT and GPT-4 and blah, blah, and all that? So it is Gen AI is capable of generating a text, images, videos, or other data using the generative models and often in response to the prompts. And generative GI models learn the patterns and structure of their input training data and then generate new data that has similar characteristics. That's what simple Gen AI, or it's an engine that produces data or text or video when something is fed to it, some data is fed to it. So it can relate from there. So application landscape is huge. And you can use in the text generation for all the marketing, sales, support, journal writing, note-taking, other. It can be used for the code generation, code documentation. By the way, pretty much all the organization in North America has blocked Gen AI, and they are building their own Gen AI gateways so that they can control the traffic which is going out from their organization. Again, because all of that information, when you're talking to a model, it is going and being stored in the external cloud and external servers. So anything that is a private data or confidential data, they don't let it go outside the organization. But people in isolation or individual users are using it. So, but anyways, the application, you can think about the code generation, code documentation, and web application builders and so on. It can also produce images. Maybe in social media, you have seen different images which are being produced by Gen AI, and it is look exactly the same as the person is. So it's kind of a scary thing because now anybody can build anything for you, and then they can put it in social media and they can defame you. So it's this technology, this dimension of technology should be controlled. It could be used for the speech or the voice synthesis. I've seen different, one or two singers' songs were sung by the Gen AI and then put into the social media. Again, that is scary. Then you can mimic everything, what you want. So the individuality or the person who is actually the person, it's blurred now. So video generation, 3D models, and others we can do help in the gaming, music, audio, and so on. So it works with the LLMs. What are the large language models and how it is different than in the traditional machine learning? So for LLM development, you don't need any ML experience, no training examples, no need to train a model. Just you have to know the prompt. Prompt, I will tell you in a bit what it is. While the traditional ML development, you need the experts, you need to know what the machine learning, that algorithm, hyperparameters, local parameters, how to train, retrain, test, and all that. Okay. So we can use Gen AI for the insider threat. It can help us identify a identification of potential incidents, doing prompt engineering and RAG. I'll tell you what RAG is in the next slide. But the challenges are, again, the data privacy, which I mentioned before, operational issues, because foundation models are expensive to build and run. You need a cluster of GPUs to actually just run that, actually clusters to actually run that GPT-4. I mean, we tried the Lemma 2 and Mixtral. It can work on the GPU. We tried on the VM. Um, the VM, it runs, but with there's so much of the delay. For analysis of one single statement, it took an hour because it's bringing in so many of the, the token size is more, he's bringing in so much of the information and so on. And you need to build a vector database for that. And vector database setup has to be according to the model you're using. That means if you have used certain library to convert your text into the vector, it will convert into certain dimension, or there will be the size of the vector, which has to coincide with the model you're using. So it's not that you build one vector database and just go on, start using with any of the LLMs out there. No, that's not possible. So that's the operational challenge over there. Performance, you have no control on the output quality. Hallucination can happen, means if you feed or the input data or same type, then the model will think in the data way. So it will be biased. And efficiency is an issue too, because as I told you, it's difficult to run the large language models. Then delay is encouraged there too. So you have to, and it costs you as well. So you have to see the balance that what you're getting and how much it costs you. So what is a prompt? Prompt is just a context, is a text that is passed to the LLM. And prompt engineering is how you can write that text efficiently so that it can drive the model in a good way, that it can give you. That's called a prompt engineering, developing and optimizing the prompts to efficiently use language models for different applications. So prompts are model specific. Don't think that you can write one set of prompts and then use it with all different types of the models. No. It will be specific with the model, specific with your use case, specific with, so you have to be careful with that. And it should be, the instructions should be clear. So it's, in simple words, it's the instructions you're giving it to the model. So, and iterative prompting is required because you cannot get it right in one single go. I picked up on GDPR because that's something we use it every day in North America. So GDPR is the regulation or standard for the European Union or for the Europe. So what happens, they have a different rules for it's a right to use, right to access, right to retrieve the data, right to object, right to investigate. So even what happened that whenever we land on any of the incident or a person, we cannot, if it belongs to Europe, then we cannot investigate that because they have a different rules and regulations for the data protection. The reason I included these two slides here was that you should understand that industry is not facing, they are facing from different sides the challenges. They are not just facing to detect the insider threat, but at the same time they have to go with the regulations that the user rights are protected. So we land on the challenging questions. Still, we don't know that the insider threat definition is a good one, or there are other definitions or other insiders we haven't yet explored. And can we do or build systems that already encounter the insider threat? Because this is something we encountered and started seeing from last, I think, 4 or 5 years. Before that, it was there. But so systems are built accordingly. So can we build the systems which can counter the insider threat right from design? And is it possible to list and detect all possible unusual behaviors of humans? I mean, I don't have an answer to this. I don't think so it is. How the real-time data correlation for an entity or an employee or a person can be performed, because it's very difficult to analyze, imagine like tons of data for different people and then you're analyzing in real time, means time is really important. If somebody did a security breach today and we are going to find it out tomorrow, then already 24 hours are passed. So we need to do in the real time. Can GDPR compliance be met with insider threat detection techniques? Will user privacy be an issue? Because we are saying that we want to track every single thing of a person, then what about the GDPR or the other privacy regulations? It's very difficult to go hand in hand. So even simple investigation, we see challenges here. Are we fully secured? What is the most pressing challenge? Is the technology or the regulation? I would say we are far ahead in technology. Regulation is something that's a challenge. So we have to find a way to not to get away with the regulation, but actually to work within that. So this last slide is simple. Like there are certain standards we follow in North America, in Europe, and there are certain tools and frameworks we use for the anybody who is interested to work in cybersecurity. They should know these. For example, Netscope to capture the browser history and browser capabilities. Symantec is about the incidents that happen, so it's captured all the details. XOR is an incident response or threat hunting platform. Commercial tools we have which are being used for the UBA, the Splunk or the Code 42, Imperva and all that. But in we don't use any of the commercial tool that is available for the UBA. Everything we build from scratch, it is in-house, so that it's private to us. Okay, and that's all.
So great, very nice. So thank you, Dr. Fatma. So let's have a Q&A session.
Yep, sure.
Yeah. So floor is open for Q&A session. And we have some questions. Just raise your hand so we would invite your questions one by one. Or you may share any experience or working experience or challenge in your organization related to these topics as well. So आप सब invited हैं. अगर कोई सवाल करना चाहें तो डॉक्टर फातिमा हाजिर हैं. Babar, can we have a question from Hussain Jaffrey?
Assalamu alaikum everyone. Thank you, Dr. Fatma, for such an interesting presentation. I am Hussain Jaffrey from Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. I have two questions for you. The first question is perhaps a wrong question, but I'll put it to the floor. You mentioned about PIIs, you mentioned about data security, you mentioned about GDPR. Now, assuming there is a data breach that happens and there are loads of stories about big names, I will avoid the big names. So when these giants, they face a data breach, the data of me and you as data subjects get compromised. The regulator comes into play, the culprit is penalized. The regulator's pocket get heavy and loaded with the penalty amount. And we as data subjects, we are left orphans. Now, with this
Okay.
background, would it be right to say, or would it be safe to say that the system is designed in such a way that big names continue business? If breach happens, they pay to the regulator who gets richer, and data subjects are left like that. What's your take on that?
Okay, I completely agree with you, and I completely understand from where you're coming, and I completely get it. It depends upon, I would say it depends upon the region. I mean, here the data breaches happen. Few of the things it doesn't even go to the news, to be honest.
Yeah.
And they are compromised internally. The things or the news that go out, here individual person or data subject has a right to actually sue the government and sue the organization and all that if they are able to know it. Because in order to prove that my data was compromised, I need to go through like so many of the processes and investigations, and the roads are blocked. But if it's admin, if I'm get lucky and then I know that my data was compromised, okay, now I'm in a position to and I have seen many times, not for our bank because I'm not aware of, but for the competitor banks, they have given they're fined with the huge penalties for the individual person. But I completely agree, and I don't know, maybe the system is designed in a way that I cannot comment on that. It's again, the things has to be built from scratch to actually be keep the privacy, which is not, unfortunately.
Yeah, great, thanks. My other question is about AI, as you mentioned. And now there is a great hype around AI, and everybody's talking about AI, and the fact that the governing frameworks for AI are also in infancy stage. That makes things a little messy, if I'm use this word. Now, as you rightly mentioned about isolation of anomalies, and also you explained about the generative AI and how it works, you mashallah explained in a very simple manner. Now, would it be right to say that perhaps it boils down to the data science part of the game for the stakeholders to properly manage the data gathered? And if yes, then what would be your advice towards bringing data science into the radar for taking it forward?
Okay, so if we are specifically mentioned about like referring to the OpenAI thing, I mean, we have seen that a challenge. It was open for us as well when it started last start of the last year. So people started using, I mean, developer were doing the coding and all that, and, analysts were sending out, and, like huge mess was going on. So the first reaction or first defense we did, and many of the organization did, that they blocked it altogether. So when they blocked it, at the same time, then there was a huge argument. Okay, the new thing, the new stuff is outside, and we are not following it, and we are not allowed to use. And so there was a politics going on, and all that. And whoever, like not specifically Gen AI, but any of the new technology that comes, whoever create that, they want to make money out of it, and they are not our friends that they just give us for free, like go code yourself. And so they have their own motives. So they were pushing. So I know people in Microsoft, and they're doing this their own. I mean, they are facing challenges for the Copilot and all that thing, and rather they have thrown away to the people to work with the Gen AI and all that. So then we started looking at, and it's not just us looking at, but any big organization having like 80,000, 90,000 plus employees we have, and the other organization and the big players in the market, they have started slowly building their in-house large language models. And even for us, we banned it for the simple usage for, the public data. We have Bridge develop a gateway. So if I just want to use it for my own interest, first of all, I have to get the access for the gateway, and then I can use my work laptop to actually connect to it. And I should be allowed for that. Otherwise, I cannot. But at the same time, we have started building our internal, the cluster large language models in terms of, for incidents. I'm part of the one project where we are building our internal GPU cluster that is trained for the incident, so that we can use we can talk to him, to the model, and just get the answers for the new upcoming incidents. The same is true with the wealth management they're doing, and, different you can say the idea. So yes, data science, again, I as I said, the technology or the technique or data science and all that, it's not hard. It's just like how we have to, now it's out of bounds. You can say the gin is out of the bottle. So how we can control the gin is the thing that's going on. Yep.
And you rightly said, you being a bank, perhaps you have the funds and resources to build your own. Everybody may not have, especially SMEs.
Yes. That's true. In that situation, then there are lots of the startups started here that did some investment, building the GPU clusters, and then they are creating the specialized LLMs for specific clients. Now, again, they will give us a specific instance to that company so that they claim that your data will be secure. But again, it is going to that startup, the servers or the cloud. And cloud is always backend is either the Amazon or it's the Google. So no matter how much you claim.
There is no cloud. It's somebody else's computer.
Yeah, so that's the thing. So it ultimately goes back to them. So
Mm,
so that's the thing. Either you have enough money to buy your own GPU servers and you're able to maintain and you have that much of the tech power to do that plumbing and, management and all. Otherwise, you cannot. Yep.
thank you. Thank you, Dr. Fatma. Thank you, Imran and team.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Hasnan. Let's have a question from Rizwan Mahmood.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Fatma. Your presentation was wonderful. I'm Rizwan, and I'm working in the IT compliance sector of a of a bank in Pakistan. So earlier you were talking about the behavioral model, where you have explained that we can build a model where we can integrate certain parameters with that model, and we can assign a certain score, and then we can start investigation and all that. My question is related to that. In Pakistan, in the financial sector and in banking, we have a lot of controls which are built in. We are ISO 27001 certified, PCI DSS certified, and then we have a lot of state bank regulatory frameworks in place. And then my question is that will it be feasible to build such a model when we have a lot of controls in place? Like we have all, we have PAM in place, we have SIEM integrated, we have other controls where, the employee cannot go to a certain website, the internet is controlled, and their, traffic is being monitored and all that. Will it be feasible to build such a model remaining in a financial sector for the employees to monitor their behavior? And also, the second
Yeah.
part to it is that we also have a conflict of interest signed by the employees. They have, declared if there is some certain sort of conflict with the organization. If you can,
Okay.
enlighten us about that.
Yeah, sure. Okay. So this one, again, this UBA, the user behavior analytics and all that, it started like 4 years before. And we were, still the other organization, other competitor organization for us, they haven't built it yet. So it's something new that is in there. So that means from couple of many years, we have all the controls in place: whitelisting, blacklisting, access denied for certain, visiting the sites or uploading and downloading. At the same time, we have a strict privacy rules for the employees and the client that their data cannot be shared. And I believe in Pakistan, it is, I'm not commenting, but it is strict, but, you can get away with that strictness, to be honest. But so this UBA is built on the top of it. So UBA is a separate entity. You can imagine that you can. So there are two answers, two dimensions you asked me. One thing is how you can satisfy your clients or the employees that their data is being logged. So here I am mentioned about not the clients, I mentioned about the employees that we keep a score. So you can satisfy for them that it is certain team that is looking. Even I didn't have an access. I was managing, I created the team and everything. I didn't have an access to the actual names of the people. It was just the investigation team. So when we log, we create a unique identification for each person. And so for me, when I look at the data and feed into any of the model, it was that number that I feed in. I pick upon that number and then I send out, if my model throws out as a malicious number, I give it to investigation team, and the few people will actually go and see who is the person and to where it belongs and all that. So all of that data is, for me, it's anonymous, and plus they are throwing into the models. So you can safely justify and argue with your client, with your employees, that it's not the people who are looking at your data and they are not passing judgment on you. It's the machines they're looking. And whoever person who is just working on, when we analyze manually to validate the models, is just the number without, I don't know who is Fatima, who is Imran, or I just see the numbers, 8, 80, 22, 46 maybe. So I don't know who the guy is. It's a female or the male or a person or which. So that's one thing. So you can actually mask the data with the names or just give a unique identifier to the people, and then it's just the number for you. Secondly, if they're now you have to create that privacy for that logging. You're creating the logs or capturing the information on the risk and the score. It shouldn't be like that you created everything and then that database you created for the people and their score, now it is being leaked out. This will complete disaster, I would say. Okay, and secondly, this UBA sits on the side, mean you get the data from the logs and then you identify the people who are going to do it with your any of the type of the prediction model you're running. And afterwards, you can, for example, if you think somebody is going to go to the any site and download the data or upload data, your model predicted that. Then at least you can put a safeguard or the watch on that system. For example, if you're using a Netscope for looking at the browser history. So I think for the initial investment, you need to have either certain those tools being. I don't know what type of the tools or the controls are there with the bank right now. I'm not aware of that, but you start from that tool that can actually monitor the outgoing traffic. So it can monitor the outgoing traffic in different ways. Again, either it can look at the browser history, either it can look at the size of the attachment being sent out, either it is, but just blocking the person for going out for something is not that we do here. There are certain sensitive sites which are completely blocked, but rest, we put a guardrail on there. What can go out, what cannot go out. I hope I was able to answer the question you asked me.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much.
So is there any other question? I think, yeah, we have a question from Rabia Riaz.
Yeah, please go ahead. I just need to log in for my meeting. I'm listening.
Fine, it's a last question, then we proceed for the closure. Question from the Rabia Riaz. Yeah.
Assalamu alaikum. Fatma, thank you so much for very good and very informative presentation. I am basically an academician and mostly teaching students in the area of cybersecurity. And I was interested more in your slides related to the difference of definition between cybersecurity from perspective of academia and industry. Because as you mentioned, you have been in university yourself and then you moved to banking sector, in fact, the real implementation areas. So this is the difficulty students are facing, that they are difficult to map the academic learning with the industrial demands mostly. So is there any suggestion that you can give how we can train the students, which research direction, so there is a close net between academia and industry?
Okay, yeah, no, that's a very important and good question, because I faced the same thing when I was in academia. No matter, we have different programs in place in which we try to, in North America, they try to merge the academic research with the industrial research. So, but again, I would just suggest that there should be, I don't know to which extent you can do it from yourself, but it comes from the higher bodies, means interaction of the industry or some regulation that force the industry to hire the, or as an internship or the co-op students, or actually work on the industrial projects for the students. But I would say, so I don't talk about that organizational shift, which I'm aware how it works in Pakistan. I was teaching in Pakistan for so many years as well. So I know I am not talking about that, and nobody can change it unless it has to change from the scratch. But I would say training the students with the actual industrial tools which are being used. So they are always, all those industrial tools have their free licenses as well, and they are trial packages as well. And that's one thing. Secondly, getting your stuff associated with any of the industry, maybe on your personal relationships, and then ask the industrial problems which they're facing. For example, I can list like tons of challenges we see in industry in the cybersecurity, which could be actually helpful for the future research. So if you have certain, I mean, if you have more, you want to do discussions on the research problems, challenges we are facing, you can for sure reach out to me. I can guide you with that, because as I told you, I'm part of the 3 research groups in GTA, and so I pick up on the industrial problems or challenges. For sure, exactly the same ones we cannot disclose, but that I guide the students to work on those challenges, so that when they finish their PhD or the master's, then they have actually worked on the real problems they will see. So that's
Thank you
what
so
I
much.
can say. Yeah.
Thank you.
So great. I know you have to join your next meeting.
Yep.
So
Yep.
we are running short of time.
I'm sorry,
So Dr. Fatma,
I took longer than
yeah.
anticipated, but
No, that was so interesting, and informative. So on behalf of National CERT, Dr. Fatma, I would like to thanks for your time, for such an informative session. Thank you very much, and we will surely engage you for our upcoming sessions as well. So
thank you so
stay
much,
tuned,
Imran.
inshallah. Thank
Thank you
you,
so
and
much.
thank you very much, and thank you all the participants to make this session successful. Thank you very much, and so now we are closing the session. Thank you,
Okay.
and bye bye.
Bye-bye. Thanks. Bye.